Hello Courserians, this is Ken Hale. I'm your instructor for the Introduction to Pharmacy MOOC, and we're going to be spending the next few minutes together in a weekly update. We're going to do this each week to give you more of a timely interaction with me as your instructor, and I will be reiterating some things about the course, about the week's events, and about some things that you are saying on our discussion forums and in Twitter. Before I get started, let me say that I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, where Ohio State University resides, and it's cold, cold, cold here, and much of the United States is experiencing the same phenomenon. We're having an Arctic blast that has closed our campus down 3 days this semester, which is very unprecedented. I want to start off by just reviewing a few things from our course syllabus, the document called How the Course Works that you'll find on the course website. And please look at that. Much more detail is in that I'm going to go over with you in the next few minutes. And also please remember that there is an orientation video that you can watch that will have a verbal discussion of all aspects of the course that will be helpful to you as well. I want to talk about just a few things. So first of all, each week, as you know, hopefully by now, we have videos that you can watch. There are content videos and there are interview videos, usually about 8 to 10 of those each week, about 10 minutes each video. And this week in terms of content, we've looked at what is a profession, what is pharmacy. We've studied pharmaceutical beginnings and the emergence of a distinct profession of pharmacy. We've studied the evolution of pharmacopoeias, and we talked about the evolution of pharmacy practice. And then importantly, you've met 4 of our first guest practitioners this week. You met Doc Lamberjack, who works in a traditional community practice setting in the United States. You met April Delahunty, who is a specialist in solid organ transplant in the hospital side. You met Kathy Kuhn, who also works in community practice, actually for the same company that Doc Lamberjack does, but does a very different sort of practice. It's more patient care oriented through sort of an ambulatory care role. And then finally you met Denitza Davis, who works again in hospital practice as an emergency department pharmacist. Very unusual and different roles. So hopefully the videos are serving you well. The next thing I want to highlight is that we have each week provided for you web resources where you can learn more if you want to go deeper into the content we are studying. This week I have pointed you in kind of particularly to an avatar module. Actually, if you'll look to my right, you'll see on my computer screen Scarlet and Gray. And Scarlet, as you can see here, will tell you shortly in the avatar talking. Actually, our students wrote this, and one of our students is the voice of Scarlet and Gray. She talks about what do pharmacists do, what are some of the important current issues in the field, what is the future vision, how would I become a pharmacist, and what can I do now, and how can I learn more. So it's kind of a fun way for you to get a real quick look at this profession. And by the way, Scarlet and Gray are our school colors. That's the kind of cutesy name for Scarlet and Gray. You'll also find in those web resources to learn more this week some more historical links that might be of interest to you about the history of pharmacy as well. And then each week we're going to post on our website books for you to learn even more, and I'm going to highlight those for you this week. There are 3 of them. The first of these is a book called Kremers and Erdang's History of Pharmacy. It's revised by Glenn Sonnedecker. This book is the kind of gold standard in the history of pharmacy. So, you know, we spent about 10 minutes talking about pharmaceutical beginnings. And, you know, this whole book covers that, and there are entire courses that cover that. So if you want to go deeper, I invite you to look at Kremer and Erdang's History of Pharmacy. Another piece that we've posted for you is called American Pharmacy, a Collection of Historical Essays. I really like this one. It's a look at the 150 years after the establishment of the American Pharmacists Association in 1852. And in here you'll find chapters on pharmacy practice, the pharmaceutical sciences, pharmaceutical education, pharmaceutical industry, governance, and pharmacy organizations. So this is American Pharmacy, a collection of historical essays. And then finally I've posted for you this week a book edited by Andrea Tone and Elizabeth Siegel Watkins called Medicating Modern America, Prescription Drugs in History. And this one goes actually through kind of medication classes and talks a little bit about how they've evolved over time. Drugs like antibiotics, hormone replacement, oral contraceptives, tranquilizers, and more. So if you want to learn more, we're trying to give you links to where you can do that, and I would invite you to check these books out as well as the web links. And then finally, in terms of how the course works, each week we will provide a quiz to you. The quiz for week 1 1 opened last week when the course content opened. And each week the quiz for that week will open when the content does. They will remain open for the duration of the course. And in order to get a statement of accomplishment, as hopefully you know by now, you must complete those quizzes each week and get the average grades that we've advertised in the course syllabus for you. Well, the next thing I want to kind of hit on briefly is a very important topic to me, and that's pharmacy fundamentals. This week we've introduced 17 of these to you. And these are kind of key phrases to make you a more learned person in the field, make you more conversant in what's happening in pharmacy. And these have covered things all the way from the bowl of Hygeia in Greek mythology to contemporary emphases on things like evidence-based medicine and personalized medicine. So we kind of a range across history in terms of some of these pharmacy fundamentals. And one of them, and I think it was maybe the first one we introduced to you, was the word covenant. And covenant meaning a usually formal, solemn, and binding agreement, according to Webster's Dictionary. We think about it as kind of a moral, kind of a deep, maybe even kind of religious sort of a bond with people, and also contractual. I want you to think about the covenant between the pharmacist and the patient as we walk through these next 7 weeks. And when we come to the Code of Ethics for Pharmacists later on in our course, you'll see that that word will reappear, and you'll understand why. Well, I want to next jump into our discussion forums a little bit. And I really invite you to engage in the discussion forums. I'm really quite pleased with the way the discussion forums have started off already. Many of you get that, the value of this. It's so cool that we have people from around the world taking this course, and we have this forum where you can exchange ideas and kind of learn from each other. I'm learning from you as well. So I'm going to be highlighting each week some of the comments that you've made in our discussion forums, and I'm going to do quite a few today. I think they've been pretty rich. So in our content videos, at the end of each one, I highlight some pharmacy fundamentals for you, and I also highlight a question that I'd like you to consider in the discussion forums, and these are some of those threads. First one, is pharmacy a profession? I'd like to read to you what Benita Pacheco wrote. She says, yes, a pharmacist respects the autonomy and dignity of each patient by encouraging patients to participate in decisions about their health. In all cases, a pharmacist respects personal and cultural differences among patients. Well said. Carter Havakan wrote this, I believe pharmacy is a profession and a crucial one. Not only does a pharmacist fall under the profession, but so do pharmacy technicians and other support staff. Due to the various team members, pharmacy has many opportunities for collaboration and improvement. The field of pharmacy is very comprehensive in that pharmacists look to help treat diseases, but also educate patients on effective prevention. Therefore, I see pharmacy as a profession and one that will continue to grow in the primary health care field. You know, Carter writes about collaboration. It's an important theme for this course. He writes about primary health care. I want you to think about that in the role of the contemporary pharmacist in primary care. And finally, in terms of that question about pharmacy being a profession, Danielle Bernard wrote this, I do believe that pharmacists have an important and autonomous role in healthcare. At minimum, they are experts in understanding how medications act and interact within our bodies and are responsible for ensuring that prescribed medications are appropriate for a given patient and diagnosis. They are members of the team of professionals, doctors, nurses, and ancillary care providers that work together to provide quality care for their communities. The next discussion thread was, how do we reconcile the contemporary emphasis on collaborative practice with historical trends separating the medical and pharmaceutical professions? And I want to say that I think there were excellent points being made in this thread. I really thought this was a particularly rich discussion in this particular thread. Let me read several of these to you. Christy Wells wrote this, almost everyone I know has a single pharmacy. This makes the pharmacist an important member of the patient's overall care, as they are often the only one who knows everything someone is taking. By collaboration of their pharmacist and the various medical professionals, the patient can be better informed, better advised, and more properly watched out for. I like this idea that Christy raises about the importance of patients using a common pharmacy for this very reason. It's an important lesson for us as healthcare consumers. Nisha Hall wrote, I think we ended up with a contemporary idea of collaboration because we realized it was too much for one person to be a doctor and pharmacist. Each profession in its own right requires in-depth study and work. However, you still need both to be on the same page. I don't know if there should be a reconciliation as much as an understanding that while one person can get the job done, hence why doctors have knowledge to write prescriptions, it is less overwhelming when we have the task of taking care of someone broken into different legs of the race. Different legs of the race. I think that's an interesting way to put it. It also decreases the amount of medicinal errors. We're going to learn much more about these things, medicinal errors, collaboration as we move ahead, but you guys are getting it already. Deanna Mahon added this: doctors and pharmacists come together to ensure the best outcome for the patient. The team approach to helping patients is much better than one person trying to treat and monitor the patient themselves. The doctors used to have to fill the roles of many people, from making a diagnosis to making the medicine to monitoring the patient to making sure the medicine is performing as intended and making them well. Pharmacists help by explaining the side effects of medicines prescribed and how they might interact with other medications and food or drink. The role of the pharmacist is growing into different areas, such as monitoring treatment and checking for double prescriptions and dangerous combinations of drugs that might be harmful to the patient. The team of doctor and pharmacist makes an unbeatable team that has the health of the patient first and foremost in thought and action. And then here's another interesting comment from Saravanan Shanmugam. Saravanan writes this: I believe the transition from pharmacy being product-orientated to becoming patient-oriented is a key factor to consider when reconciling the two. The emergence of the independent identity of pharmacy in Baghdad and the Roman Empire was probably backed by the growing base of knowledge acquired of medicinal and pharmacy practitioners. Hence, a division has made to separate diagnosis and treatment so that two distinct professions can gain more specialized knowledge and skills. However, with the advent of precision medicine and such, diagnoses and treatment are ever more interconnected, and it is increasingly difficult to draw the line between the two. This necessitates the contemporary emphasis on collaborative practice, in which both professions require a certain degree of overlap while at the same time maintaining their own identity. And one final comment on this combination, this reconciling, this separation, and the coming back together of these professions. Missy Creed wrote this: we reconcile it by realizing that the profession has grown and evolved and will continue to grow and evolve. I think collaboration amongst professionals is best for the patient. That's the bottom line. It's best for the patient. That's why it's the mantra of the 21st century. Let me read a couple of comments that some of you have made about the discussion thread line on Eugene White. So Eugene White had a vision for a different approach to community practice in 1960 when he opened an office-based pharmacy. We talked about this in one of our content videos. What is your vision for how community pharmacists may practice differently in the years to come? Missy Creed, again, wrote this: I think community pharmacists will be just that, in the community. They will be much more accessible. I want you to think about the accessibility of the pharmacists as we go through these discussions in the weeks to come. They will be embedded along with doctors, nurses, and social workers. With chronic diseases, they will be relied upon much more heavily. Think about the pharmacist's work in chronic disease management, another important thing for us to think about. They are becoming much more important in the team approach to handling patient care and health. And then secondly, Alicia Dale wrote this: talking to the patient, caring about the patient. We are so fast at giving and dispensing and ruling out. Money has to be made. The more people you get in and prescribe, the more profit. I miss the corner drugstores, and the pharmacist knew my name when I was a child. Though advancements have made major improvements, we miss the courtesy. Eugene White had the right plan. I know we are in the profession of dispensing medications to help. If we do not lose focus of being kind and helpful, maybe we can start a ripple of change. We are the future. I love this. Maybe we can start a ripple of change. We are the future. That's why I'm here with you over these next 7 weeks. Let's change. Let's make things better. The last discussion thread I want to highlight with you are a couple of comments you all made about the question I asked: are counterfeit drugs still a significant problem in the 21st century? And of course you all agreed that it is still a big issue. Let me read a couple of the specific comments. Ekaterina wrote this: I'm from Russia. That's why it is easier for me to describe the situation here, but I believe it's a global problem. I believe so too, Ekaterina. In Russia, counterfeit drugs have been a significant problem for many years. The reasons are numerous. just to mention the growing number of online drugstores, which increases the risk of buying unsatisfactory drugs, plus a growing number of unrelated wholesale establishments and secondary packers. We can't trace where or how such drugs were prepared as well as the ingredients. This causes poisoning and even death of patients. It's not a problem, it's a tragedy. I agree, Katrina. Trevina Mehir Ramses Farid wrote this. Yes, counterfeit drugs are a significant problem worldwide. There are two reasons for this. First, in the absence of firm and strict laws. Second, the patient is regarded as a customer. If the patient is deceived into buying fake drugs, huge benefits will be obtained. Deceiving patients is not so hard, and it all depends on marketing and sometimes on misconceptions. In my country, there are people who buy cheap counterfeit drugs because they can't afford expensive ones. And there are people who buy expensive counterfeit drugs because they think a more expensive drug is always more efficient. And finally, Alan Ong wrote this. Definitely. I'm from the Philippines, and prescription drugs, especially branded ones, can be quite costly. Health insurance is not available to all. Even firms don't necessarily insure employees. HMOs usually don't cover all procedures, so any means to get cheaper drugs will result in unscrupulous individuals to issue items that may not exactly meet quality standards of any sort. So we talked about adulteration, we talked about pharmacopoeias, and how they help us try to solve this problem of counterfeit drugs or drugs of poor quality. It continues to be a burning issue in the 21st century, as you have quite clearly pointed out. The last thing I want to do in our weekly update, and I'll try to do this each week, is to share some of the Twitter feeds that have been coming to me from the questions I've been asking throughout the week, throughout the course. This week, the question I ask you to tweet your abbreviated version of your definition of pharmacy to @prof_Hale. Got a lot of them, and I've actually been retweeting those. So, if you're following me on Twitter @prof_Hale, you'll see these. I want to highlight just a handful of them. So, what is your definition of pharmacy? T. Kingswell wrote, "Pharmacy is the science and technique concerned with the design, preparation, dispensing, and maximizing best use of drugs." Well put. Rawia Raju wrote, "It is a health profession linking health sciences with clinical sciences to ensure safe use of pharmaceutical drugs." I like the idea that you've both mentioned maximizing safe use and safe use of medicinal drugs in both of your tweets. I think you're getting that. Mecafania wrote, "My definition of pharmacy is providing quality, personalized patient care through medications." Personalized care, one of our pharmacy fundamentals this week. Sammy Palmer, UK, wrote, "My definition of pharmacy is the preparation, dispensing, researching, and advising on drugs and medications." Christy 4H tweeted this, "Pharmacy is the practice of providing drugs as well as the knowledge and understanding of how they can affect your overall health." And lastly, I'd like to read a tweet by R.M. Dopico, which I really like, and maybe is my favorite one. R.M. Dopico wrote this, "My definition of pharmacy is a philosophy of service to others to improve the health of the community." Kind of comes back to that World Health Organization of what pharmacy is, doesn't it? A philosophy of service to others. So I invite you to continue to use our Twitter feed, continue to use our discussion forums. This is an important part of the course, and myself as well as our TAs and our staff assistant will be monitoring what you're writing as well. Well, that's week one. It's been a good week already. I can't believe we're getting ready to start week two. Week two will launch on Thursday of this week at 10 a.m., and we will start to consider educational pathways in pharmacy. So wherever you are, stay warm, and we'll see you next week.